The Buffalo Bills traded wide receiver Stefon Diggs to the Houston Texans. My initial reaction to that is coming your way today on Locked On Bills.
You are Locked On Bills, your daily Buffalo Bills podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Bills Mafia? It's Joe Marino, author of Go Bills and Buffalo's Run, also the co-host of the Locked On NFL Scouting Podcast, and I'm your host of Locked On Bills. Want to thank you for making Locked On Bills your first listen every day, and a big welcome and shout out to our everydayers. You know who you are. Those of you who never miss a single episode, I appreciate y'all being here very, very much. I'd also like to invite you to subscribe or follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Well, folks, it happened. The Buffalo Bills traded wide receiver Stefon Diggs to the Houston Texans. And so our objective today is to share my initial reaction to that. And there's a lot to unpack. There's a lot to learn. There's a lot to learn about what this puzzle looks like. So let's talk all about it. The Bills send Stefon Diggs and a 2024 sixth-round pick and a 2025 fifth-round pick to the Houston Texans in exchange for a 2025 second-round pick. That pick courtesy of Minnesota. So the Bills will get Minnesota's second-round pick in 2025 in exchange for Stefon Diggs. Maybe your initial reaction to the terms of the deal, you might feel a little bit underwhelmed. Maybe you wished the Bills would get more. Of course, you always want the Bills to get the most that they can out of a trade. But I think when you consider a couple of recent deals for wide receivers, you can understand that the compensation is okay. The Chargers just traded away Keenan Allen to the Chicago Bears and got a fourth-round pick in exchange for him. Dallas, when they traded Amari Cooper, only got a fifth-round pick. I think the return here is fine. This isn't Stefon Diggs 4 or 5 years ago. This is north of 30 Stefon Diggs. I think getting a 2 back is fine. Obviously, you'd love to get the 2 this year, but we'll see what that means for 2025. We'll talk more about some of those possibilities later on. But just initially reacting to the compensation, based on those other deals that I just mentioned, it feels like that is a reasonable return. So I want to reflect on Stefon Diggs' time in Buffalo. I want to talk about the fallout, tell you what I like about this trade, what I don't like about this trade, and what's next. So Stefon Diggs' time in Buffalo was really fun. His arrival in 2020 sparked a very special run for the Buffalo Bills offense, an offense that in all 4 seasons that Stefon Diggs was in Buffalo, 2020 through 2023, the Bills had a top 5 scoring offense every single year. That's fun. I enjoyed that. I hope you did too. And obviously Stefon Diggs was a big part of that. In his 4 years in Buffalo, his average season was 111 receptions, 1,343 yards, and 9.3 touchdowns per season. That's what he averaged. It's very clearly the best 4-year stretch of wide receiver production in the history of the Buffalo Bills. So before we kind of get into the fallout and what's next and what I like and what I don't, let's take a moment to just appreciate the production and how good this Bills offense was with Stefon Diggs over the last 4 seasons. Now, of course, it didn't come without drama, right? The end of his time in Minnesota, a lot of drama. A lot of his time in the end of his time in Buffalo, a lot of drama. First 2 years were pretty quiet, but the last 2 years were weird. And I think you go back to the divisional round home playoff loss to the Cincinnati Bengals, and you're left with that image of Stefon Diggs looking up at Josh Allen with his palms to the air while Josh Allen's ignoring him on the sideline while the Bills are losing to the Bengals. Then that entire offseason was really strange, wasn't around the team, weird, cryptic social media stuff. He finally shows up for mandatory OTAs. He's sent home on day one. Sean McDermott has the press conference, says he's very concerned, comes back later, has a clarification. It was strange. And then he shows up to training camp. Everything seems good. The season gets off to a tremendous start. 5 100-yard games over the first 6 games of the season. And then the second half of the season was terrible, right? I mean, Stefon Diggs' production fell off. He was terrible in the playoff loss to Kansas City. There's the end of the season. He has the weird interview with Cam Wolf, cryptic tweets. The next thing you know, he's traded to the Houston Texans. Let's talk more about 2023. Again, a terrific start. 100 yards in 5 of the first 6 games to go with 5 touchdowns. And then the wheels fell off, and there was a drastic shift in receiving production. Over the last 12 games of the season, Stefon Diggs' efficiency dropped off tremendously. He was still the most targeted player on the team, 71 targets over the last 12 games. But third in yards. A reception percentage of under 60%. Josh Allen's passer rating over the last 12 games, throwing the ball to Stefon Diggs was 77.7. That's not good. That's not what you need from your number one receiver. And that passing offense became about Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid over the last 12 games. Dalton Kincaid led the team in receptions over the last 12 games. Khalil Shakir led the team in yards, and they both tied for the team lead in receiving touchdowns. The last 12 games, Khalil Shakir, 28 catches, 33 targets, a reception percentage of 84.8%, 422 yards, 3 touchdowns, a drop rate of 3.4%, passer rating when targeted of 149.1. Dalton Kincaid over the last 12 games, 44 catches on 56 targets, 78.6% reception percentage, 406 yards, 3 touchdowns, drop rate of 6.4%, passer rating of 99.9. Stefon Diggs, 42 catches on 71 targets, reception percentage of 59.2, 388 yards, 2 touchdowns, a drop rate of 12.5%, and a passer rating of 77.7. I'll give you one more. Gabe Davis, last 12 games, 17 catches on 33 targets, reception percentage of 51.5%, 248 yards, 2 touchdowns, drop rate of 10.5%, and a passer rating when targeted of 71.3. Maybe it's not that surprising that they moved on from both Stefon Diggs and Gabe Davis, given that efficiency down the stretch. And they're leaning more into Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid. 2 good-looking young playmakers. The wheels fell off. And I answered so many questions. I tried to answer so many questions about explaining the why. I didn't have a great answer for you. Felt to me like physically he was fine. He was getting a lot of targets, but the production just wasn't there. And the efficiency was terrible. It's very alarming how that all declined. Became very confusing for a lot of people, myself included. Have a tweet here from my friend Brett Whitefield, who's actually going to be on the show tomorrow as a guest. Brett tweeted out 91 players ran at least 200 routes from week 8 onward. Stefon Diggs ranked 52nd in yards per route run, 52nd in first downs per route run, despite ranking top 12 in target share. That's a concerning stretch. And I think the Bills took that he's north of 30 years old, took the never-ending distraction and drama that's always existing on social media and said, yeah, we'll eat the $31 million in dead cap. We'll take a 2 next year for you. We got to move on. And so here we are. Plenty of questions left to be answered. But in trying to understand the why of the trade, that's where my mind goes. All right, folks, I have so much more to say. I want to tell you specifically what do I like about the deal, what I don't like about the deal, and speculate with you on what's next. So be sure to stick with me. Folks, you shouldn't have to worry when you're looking to buy tickets for your next big event. Well, you don't have to, because Gametime is here for you. And it's the fast and easy way to buy tickets for all the sports, music, comedy, and theater events near you. They have killer deals on last-minute tickets, all-in prices, a view from your seat, and a best price guarantee. Gametime takes the guesswork out of buying tickets. The app is awesome, easy to navigate. They give you flash deals. I actually just took advantage of a flash deal. My wife and I were interested in a concert that was coming to our town in October, and the flash deal came on, and we took it. It was a great deal. I also love that when you buy a ticket from Gametime, they send the ticket right to your phone, so you don't have to dig through your emails to find it. So snag the tickets without the stress with Gametime. Download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNFL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONNFL. That's LOCKEDON NFL for $20 off. Download Gametime today. Last-minute tickets, lowest price, guaranteed. The sports calendar is loaded, and FanDuel is making it even easier and more exciting to get in on the action, because right now, new customers get $200 in bonus bets with any winning $5 bet. That's $200 that you can use on betting the tournament, Major League Baseball, NBA, NHL, and so much more. So visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet a big win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. All right, folks. So what do I like about this deal? What do I not like? And what's next? Let's get into what I like. And I'll just be honest about things that I like. And I'm not trying to create a spin zone here or anything like that. This is candidly what I like about the deal. And if you've been listening to my analysis really since about November of last year, I've talked a lot about resetting and getting younger and cheaper. So while I have concerns, and I'll get to them, I like the reset. The nucleus of this team has had the capacity to win the Super Bowl. I've said that repeatedly. But unfortunately, they couldn't get over the hump that is Kansas City. 3 of the last 4 years, getting bounced in the playoffs by Kansas City. So you're stuck. You're spinning your tires, and you weren't getting over the hill. Meanwhile, a lot of the roster was reaching its expiration, right? A lot of aging players. I thought getting younger and cheaper with some resets was absolutely necessary. And you saw that in so many places on this roster. Of course, Poyer, Tre'Davious White, Mitch Morse, Stefon Diggs. There's been a lot. There's been a lot of turnover. A lot. I mean, 6 of the 8 captains from last year, not back. Teams get so obsessed with the idea that we're close. Let's keep as much of this together as we can. We're close. They had 4 chances at this thing and got bounced 4 times. They never got over the hump. So keep spinning the tires or put a new set on and see if you can get over the hill. And one of the biggest exceptions that I have with Stefon Diggs was his production and performances in the playoff elimination games, particularly the last 3. 2023 against Kansas City, the last Bills game we watched. Starts off, he fumbles on the first play of the game. Thank God Dalton Kincaid had a plan, but he knocked the ball out of bounds. Then he dropped the pass on 3rd down. And then, of course, the bomb at the end of the game that could have wound up being a game-winning type play. He finishes with 3 catches for 21 yards on 8 targets in the elimination game. Go back to that Cincinnati game where he's got his palms in the air yelling at Josh Allen. 4 receptions for 35 yards on 10 targets. In 2021, the 13 seconds game, Stefon Diggs contributed 3 catches for 7 yards on 6 targets. Stefon Diggs has not been good enough in those playoff elimination games. And what does Brandon Beane always say about playoff elimination games? It's where you find out what your biggest problems are. You're not getting enough production out of your number one receiver. I am not trying to undermine Stefon Diggs. He's a big reason why the Bills were in those situations. I started this conversation telling you all about the appreciation that I had for his production, and it's the greatest 4-year stretch of wide receiver play in the history of the Buffalo Bills. All of that's true. It's also true that his production was not good enough in playoff elimination games. So yeah, there's a part of me that really does like the reset. You're not going to accuse this Bills team of running it back. That won't happen. Not this time. The next thing that I like about this deal is that we don't have to talk about Stefon Diggs anymore. Candidly, it's been annoying. I'm sitting here like, I talk about the Buffalo Bills every single day on this podcast. It's the passion of my life. I love it so much. And I always have to try to balance this, like, well, do I talk about this Stefon Diggs thing or not? Like, it's exhausting and annoying. And I feel like so many of you are there too. I can't tell you how many people have sent me a text message or a DM or an email at different points over the last year and a half of, I'm done with Diggs. I'm done with Diggs. I'm done with Diggs. Well, we're done with Diggs. The crypticness, that's not our problem anymore. I also like not having to worry about the future as it relates to him, whether it was the regression. Now, we certainly saw a major statistical regression over the last 12 games in 2023. We don't have to worry about what that looks like in 2024 because he's not on the team. And we also don't have to worry about, okay, when does this end? Is he going to force his way out? It happened. There's an element of relief to me. I also like what this opens up for young playmakers. I really like Khalil Shakir and Dalton Kincaid. I think they are awesome football players. Of course, the Bills also have James Cook and Curtis Samuel, Dawson Knox. Well, with Stefon Diggs gone, with Gabe Davis gone, over 200 targets just opened up for this passing game. Now, you need more. We'll talk about that. You got to add some weapons here, and I'm sure the Bills will. We'll get to that. But you have a lot that just opened up for your passing game. And I remember the just kind of going through the 2023 season. You started off the year and Diggs was super productive. And I remember I got so many questions about, well, do you feel like Josh is just locking in on Diggs? Is he not going to get anyone else involved? And then the final stretch of the year comes and the questions are now, well, what's up with Diggs? Why can't he get him involved with consistency, right? It was weird. There's no more worrying about Stefon Diggs getting his. And I hope that there's some freedom for Josh Allen that comes with that. And there's more weapons coming, but can we just pause and really get excited about Dalton Kincaid and how good he is? 120 targets to that guy gets me pretty excited. And you're seeing more and more NFL teams run their passing offense through a tight end. Hello, Travis Kelce, Kansas City Chiefs. Hello, Mark Andrews with the Ravens. Hello, TJ Hawkinson. I know that they have Justin Jefferson, but like TJ Hawkinson's high volume piece of that Minnesota team. Hello, Sam Laporta with the Detroit Lions. This is a thing. And the Bills got an absolute dude at the tight end position. Khalil Shakir, how good was he down the stretch last year? He led the team in receiving. Caught 85% of his targets down the stretch. Drop rate of 3.4%, a passer rating of 149.1. I am excited for those guys and the opportunities that this can create for them to be bigger pieces of this offense. The guys that really were the catalyst for the passing offense down the stretch. Here's more. Oh, by the way, you brought in Curtis Samuel, and we should be excited about what he can do for this offense with Joe Brady. And I also like that this move does free up $27.3 million in cap space for 2025. The Bills, I mean, we'll see what it all looks like when it's all said and done, but the Bills entering 2025 from a cap position is going to look a lot different than what we've had to talk about over the last 2-3 years. So that's what I like about the deal. What do I not like about the deal? Well, $31 million in dead cap. I mean, that's real. And it's not like the Bills get a reduction of cap space of $31 million. It's kind of just like earmarked where you don't have Stefon Diggs and you don't have $31 million. That's very real. It's sunk cost. So, of course, I don't like that. I don't like the current outlook at wide receiver. Right now, this wide receiver core isn't inspiring me at all. I like Khalil Shakir. I like Curtis Samuel. But you're missing stuff here. You need impact. You need playmakers at wide receiver. There's still plenty of offseason left. We'll talk about what's next here in just a moment, but you're missing a number one receiver. And I think just honestly, you look at this Bills offensive line, you look at this Bills wide receiver core, and you cannot honestly say that they're in a better spot right now. Now, they certainly made their choices. There was some intentionality behind a lot of that. It has to come together. But your O-line and wide receiver core, I don't think there's a intellectually honest argument to make that it's better right now than it was. Again, still plenty of offseason left to get to. I also don't like that there's a lot of turnover at wide receiver. Moving on from Stefon Diggs and Gabe Davis. And I obviously was totally fine with the Gabe Davis piece of that conversation. But when you look at that as a pair, you know, there's a lot of newness to this offense that's coming. And some of that's exciting, but there's going to be some turnover. Obviously, Joe Brady's first full season as the offensive coordinator. Whatever new players they bring in, we've already seen Curtis Samuel and Mac Hollins added to this mix. New guys in new roles. There's a lot of newness to this offense. And there's a lot of chemistry to establish. I'm guessing you're going to see them lean more into that 12 personnel. I know that that's what they wanted to be last year, but even more so now. Dalton Kincaid, Dawson Knox. I mean, Dawson Knox certainly took a bit of a pay cut, but he's still a $9 million a year tight end. You still have a first and a fourth round pick invested in Kincaid. I think that identity that they want offensively is still something that they're trying to lean into, and I think you're going to have a very wide open path to do that. So what I don't like is $31 million in dead cap, the current outlook at wide receiver, and the overall turnover at wide receiver, and the chemistry and newness to the offense that we're going to see next year. But again, I think there's some appeal to that as well. So what's next? If you looked at my notes right now, it just says the word something. Something is next. You know, so much of the reaction to this deal is literally just living in the vacuum of the deal. Oh, the Bills traded away Stefon Diggs and got a 2025 second round pick back. If that's all you're thinking about, then you have a very narrow-minded opinion, very narrow-minded perspective of this whole deal. This isn't it. The Bills are not playing a game today, tomorrow, next week, in a month, in 2 months, or 3 months. There's a lot of time before the Bills are going to play a game and a lot of opportunity to add to this roster. They didn't trade away Stefon Diggs for them to not make a meaningful move to bring in wide receiver talent to this operation. So don't be narrow-minded and live in this world. Well, Stefon Diggs is not here anymore. What are we going to do? Something's coming. Let it play out. Let's see how the puzzle comes together. But I think there's certainly possibilities. A trade. What if the Bills traded for Brandon Aiyuk from the San Francisco 49ers? Trade pick 28 and some change for him. Now all of a sudden you're like, oh, I think Brandon Aiyuk might be better than Stefon Diggs. He's certainly younger, more upside long term. You could talk yourself into that real quick. Maybe that happens. I think it's unlikely, but what about trading for T. Higgins? I think Cincinnati would love to not trade him to the Bills, and I don't think that Cincinnati wants to trade him at all, but I wasn't convinced the Bills would trade Stefon Diggs away. I think if you haven't learned to not speak in absolutes when it comes to the NFL, and you ain't paying attention. Stuff happens all the time that we don't anticipate. Don't say never. But they could go after a wide receiver. If there's anything that's true in the NFL, it's that wide receivers get traded all the time. They get traded all the time. And, maybe there's some receivers out there that we're not even thinking about. I know some people would like to invoke the name Justin Jefferson. I don't know. I think he's one of the best players in the league. I'm sure that's going to be expensive, but the point being that wide receivers get traded all the time, and don't put it past Brandon Beane to trade for one. I know that he knows the importance of a number one wide receiver. He's not just going to go into the season with Curtis Samuel or Khalil Shakir as number one receiver. Something's happening here. Maybe it's trading for a veteran. Maybe it's making a big move up in the draft. Brandon Beane now has 2 second-round picks in 2025 in addition to his own first-round pick. Does that open up his appetite to move way up? Could they do a Julio Jones type trade and go from 28 and get up to number 8 with the Falcons, number 6 with the Giants? And that puts them in position to draft Malik Nabers or Odunze or Marvin Harrison Jr. Maybe. I'm just speculating here. I'm not saying I even want him to do that. But when I think about the options that exist to replace Stefon Diggs, certainly on the table. Do they just take advantage of the depth of this wide receiver class and double dip? Could they maybe trade back from 28 and then use a couple of day 2 picks on wide receivers? Totally possible. And maybe that doesn't excite you, but look at the Green Bay Packers right now. They trade away Devontae Adams. They have Jordan Love, good-looking young quarterback. Everyone's excited about their young wide receiver talent, right? Christian Watson, 2022 second-round pick. Jaden Reed, 2023 second-round pick. Romeo Doubs, 2022 fourth-round pick. Dontavian Wicks, 2023 fifth-round pick. People are excited about this young receiver core in Green Bay. It's a bunch of second, fourth, and fifth-round picks. And a couple of young tight ends that they drafted as well. There's a lot of different ways that they can get this done. But something's coming. And there's a deep wide receiver class for them to take advantage of. And maybe that's part of it. And maybe there's a veteran coming. Tyler Boyd's out there. Odell Beckham Jr.'s out there. Michael Thomas, who has some familiarity with Joe Brady. Michael Gallup, DJ Chark. Something is coming here. The Bills are not playing a game today. Let's let it play out. And let's see the full puzzle come together. Certainly a weird day. I'm in the middle of a field trip with my daughter's preschool class. We're at a safari. There's Highland cows and zebras and antelopes, potbelly pigs all around me, giraffes, zebras. All of a sudden, my phone is blowing up. I'm sitting on a wagon that's being pulled. There's probably 30 people in this wagon. There's 3 Clydesdales pulling this wagon. My phone blows up. Stefon Diggs is traded. It's been a weird day. Came home, did a stream on Bleacher Report, did this podcast. So my head's spinning too, folks. There's a lot to process, and we got plenty of time to unpack it. These conversations are only going to become more interesting moving forward as we now can speculate on what the heck Brandon Beane's going to do to replenish this wide receiver core. And I get excited about it because I love roster building. I love, the construction of teams, the whys behind the decisions. And hopefully today was a great way for us to get started with those conversations that are coming in the very near future. Very excited about our next conversation. Brett Whitefield from Fantasy Points. I'm going to get his takes on what the Bills should do at wide receiver. And we had planned this before the Diggs trade. And now it's going to become even more interesting. So you have that to look forward to get that perspective here on our next conversation. But thank you for being here. As always, I kindly ask that you share, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Have a great rest of your day. Go Bills. And I look forward to catching up with you again real soon.